Well, Steve Arts 89. Well, Phantasm. Now, I somehow missed the Phantasm series. I was aware of the second film, mostly because the VHS at the video store had the tall man holding a silver orb, and it was like embossed in silver on the cover, and I just remember that. But I don't think I ever rented it, because I don't really recall ever seeing the movies, but I watched them again recently, and it was really interesting. Now, honestly, the first film when I was watching it, I thought it didn't make sense. I thought it was poorly made, and I sort of was not very optimistic. Then I got to the second film, and elements of it were better. And it wasn't until the third film that I sort of understood the series and actually noted that it's actually written and directed by the same guy, Dan Coscarelli. And he wrote and directed all five films, co-wrote the fifth film. It was directed by David Hartman, I think his name was. But he directed the first four films, which is fairly rare in a horror series to have the same writer-director basically in charge of the whole series and keep fairly consistent. And what I realised about the film series was the first film was supposed to be sort of have dreamlike elements and supposed to be sort of vague and surrealist. And I can kind of get that now looking back at it, but at first I just didn't quite get it because I was expecting a traditional horror movie with a villain with these spheres that kill people. That's what I thought it was. I didn't realise he was an alien. And fortunately, I actually read that part in Wikipedia, but it was only about 10 seconds before it was revealed on screen during the episode, during the movie. So it was kind of spoiled, but only for about 15-20 seconds. But it was interesting. Basically, this guy's an alien. He has come to Earth, and he started off by taking corpses and reshaping them and reanimating them and sending them back to his planet as slaves to be used. Then they started killing people to do that. So, that's an interesting element I wasn't expecting. I wasn't really expecting the surrealism and dream sort of element as well. And there are parts of the film that do sort of work with that. And the first film came out in 1979. It was produced on a mere $300,000. Had sort of amateur actors and very locally sort of produced. And it did fairly well. It did $22 million in the cinemas, and the writer-director was pressured to make a second film. Universal wanted a horror series, so they bought it, but then they turned around and said, but you can't do it how you want, you have to do it our way. So it has to be about guns and fighting, no dream sequences, and you have to replace the main actor, which everyone loved from the first film, because everyone loved the surrealism and the characters and the acting in the first film. It was about a boy dealing with death and the death of his parents, and it worked, it resonated with people, and they liked the actor. But no, they replaced him with someone LaGrosse, who apparently was a working actor who was known, James LaGrosse. I kind of recognised him, but didn't care. It's not like he was someone I was like, oh wow, he's in this film. So Universal forced him to do that, and it didn't go well. The film cost $3 million. It made $7.3 million. So a bomb compared to the first film, and based on the budget, it didn't really make its money back. So then the next film, they actually got it made, but they did it on a smaller budget, $2.5 million, I think, and it was released. Essentially, it was released on home video. It was released for a couple of weeks in Louisiana and Baton Rouge, and it was huge. It was really successful there for the 2 weeks it ran, and did really well on home video, but it didn't get a proper release from Universal because they were in some sort of legal fight or some issue with the director. So because of that confrontation with the director, they refused to release it properly, which hurt the film and hurt the franchise, and it was just stupid. It's just studio politics. They ruin everything. Just the way they thought, well, we'll take this franchise, we'll take this movie, turn it into a franchise because people like it, but we'll make it a generic horror movie with, action and guns and whatever, just like every other horror movie. It's just the studio mentality and thinking is just baffling. Now, the third film, you can kind of... Actually, you really can't tell the drop in budget. It's pretty much the same. The fourth film, you can sort of tell it's made for, video, and it actually, on YouTube, it's a VHS rip, and it's got the trailers and everything, and the warnings and everything. So it's kind of like going back in time to watch that. But it's interesting. They bring in another character, younger character. They bring back the actor from the second film who played Mike. Michael Baldwin, or A. Michael Baldwin. So that was great. So they brought that character back, and they brought the brother back who died, played by I think Billy Thornbury. They brought him back as a projection or a dream or a hologram or various ways he's sort of used, because he's been turned into one of the spheres. Because the spheres, they use the brains of the people that have been changed into these dwarf zombies, and they put them in these spheres, which apparently for this film, or was it the fourth film? I'm getting a bit confused. These sphere effects were produced by fans, and they were presented to the director, and they basically got them in because they couldn't afford to do really good ones themselves. So there's a lot of things that happened. A lot of work went into getting the third and fourth films done, because people cared about the franchise and they did have a continuity and a story going. But Universal, who stepped in the second film, just sort of made the film step back, kind of hurt it, and then kind of sabotaged it, but then sort of abandoned it and then left it to sort of be produced again. And it's interesting the way it goes. They do develop more of a mythology and a story. We see that the tall man has introduced some sort of plague, and towns are being wiped out, and they're not just using corpses now, they're killing people who are becoming zombies. So it sort of expands and develops and sort of has its own little universe, which I wasn't expecting. It was quite a surprise. And the last film, though, it gets very confusing, because we see Reggie is basically going through he's living in a multiverse, and he's either an old person in a home and his brother's there with him who has no memory of what happened, or he's in a hellscape where the future, the tall man has blown up cities with giant spheres and has released plagues and things, or he's just in a different hellscape, and they find a new character in this film called not Reggie. I've forgotten the name of they pick up a female character, then she gets killed, then she comes back as a doppelganger in a different universe called Jane, because most of the women in the films don't survive. It's only the men who survive, but it does have the main characters throughout the whole series, and pretty much played by the same actors, except for the second film. So that's another thing kind of unique in this series. But it is a bit confusing, but it's meant to be, and it kind of works, because you never quite know what dimension you're in, what alternative reality you're in, what timeline you're in. It is all over the place, but it kind of works, and it's kind of been consistent. It's part of what the whole series sort of is. So I found it interesting. I did enjoy it. I kind of got sucked into the little world a little bit. But the last film, I heard it was released theatrically, but I can't find a box office for it anywhere, or on Box Office Mojo or anything. It doesn't even come up. So I'm not sure how it did. There is talk of another film, because there was a big sort of war against the tall man and the spheres sort of story that was written, that was sort of shelved in favour of the fourth film and the fifth film, but there was talk of it following with the fifth film. And they did lie about the fifth film being produced for a while they were looking for a distribution. So who knows if they're working on a sixth film, they probably won't say. But Dan Costarelli, I think his name is, he stepped back a little bit. He didn't direct the last film, he just co-wrote it with David Hartman. So not sure what's happening with the next film. Would like to see it get a nice ending, because it was a bit of a mess, but at the same time, the idea of it not having an ending and being sort of this sort of alternative reality and sort of unresolved and unclear and dreamlike sort of works for it in a way, so I'm not really bothered by that. But this is turning into a 10-minute review of the whole series, which wasn't really planned that way, but it's hard to, I didn't want to do separate reviews. But yeah, I stumbled into it, and I was enjoying watching it, and I basically spent the whole day watching the films, and it was interesting. They bring in a younger character in the third film who kind of just disappears and is killed. They had also another character called Rocky, who was played by a black actress. I'm not sure of her name, but she was interesting. But then she just sort of leaves at the end of the third film. She doesn't come back in the fourth film, but I heard she had a cameo in the sixth film, and I thought she was in it. But yeah, I don't know why they didn't have her back. I guess just different alternative realities, they could sort of do cameos and things, but it would have been nice to have seen her come back and have a bigger role. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed the series. I was surprised by the series. I thought it was something totally different from what it was. and it is fairly unique, and it's pity it just didn't get... If Universal had understood what it was about and given him the money to sort of explore what the film was, like they did with Hellraiser, it could have been a much more interesting and more successful series, and they could have had the horror series franchise that they wanted when they got involved with it. But of course, studio thinking, ruins everything. But we'll see if they do a sixth film, and if that was the end, or if there's going to be another end, or if, this is interesting. And I'm kind of adding the Tall Man to my sort of list of iconic sort of horror villains now. I'd seen him mentioned a couple of times, but I didn't really think he was very important. But and he's all played by the same actor, Angus Scrimm, the whole time. I think he recently passed. I have to check that out. But I'm going to go. It's nearly 11 minutes. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of the original film and the series and the politics and everything.